So we're live, and on the show today we have a very special guest. His name is Solape Jegede, and he's the MD of JegeReis Holding Company Limited. I hope I got the
JegeReis.
pronunciation right. Fantastic. Okay, okay, and just to give a background to the people that don't know you, JegeReis is a company that is into trading. You produce, manufacture, and distribute raw materials across Africa. So your specialty is inter-African trade and intra-Africa trade. If I am right in the description from your website, yes, and you're based in Angola, but you have regional offices in the UK and Dubai, right? Okay,
That's
so
it's
you're
correct.
welcome. Okay, great. So you're welcome to the Money Buff Show, where we interview people who are doing what they love for a living. So just to give you a background about what the show is about, we generally tend to interview people from every walk of life, as in entrepreneurs, people that are on-air personalities, even people working in 9 to 5, just to showcase different examples of people that have found a way to do what they love and earn money from it. Not for the sake of the money, but they've found a way to create value and at the same time found something that they actually enjoy doing. And what we're trying to do is to create examples for other people who are trying to achieve the same thing to follow. So I thought you were a great example because I know you were in finance before you became a commodity trader. So I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I'm going to allow you to give us a bit of your background before we go into your business proper. So back to you.
Okay, thank you for the kind introduction. I don't think I've been introduced like that well before. So maybe we'll be collaborating. Be my PR, my head of PR. But yes, so as you said, Solape Jegede, I'm co-founder, managing director of JegeReis Limitada in Angola, FCCO in Dubai, and in the UK as well. Um, we are a physical commodity trading company. So we started off with animal feed, and then we branch out to other raw materials, other agro produce, and now some other non-agricultural commodities. But mainly we are agro producer and distributor. So just to add to something you said, we also aggregate. Actually, most of what we do is trading. So our own operation in terms of warehouses and farms is quite small for commercial quantities. So most of what we do is actually we're buying from a co-op producer, a big producer, and then we are selling on to a big buyer. So we're working with factories, wholesalers, other traders as well. And yeah, that's our operation. It's our company. It's like I said, it's something that I enjoy doing. We've been doing fully for the last 3 years, full time. But the company has roots all the way back into, I say, 2015, 16. Those were the early days. And I was kind of part time, um, doing some other things. I work in finance, some
Okay.
businesses.
So you are based in Angola. Am I right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So will I be right in describing you as a Nigerian by blood, a British by citizenship, and an Angolian by residence?
Angola. Yeah, Nigerian, British, Angolan. Yeah, do you know, there's many ways to slice this cake.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Give us a bit of your background and what led you up until you moved to Angola.
Okay, so my background was in finance initially during university. I studied law and accounting at university, and then I was interning. During that time, I was at FCMB, and then I moved on to a private equity corporate finance firm, and then I was working in some other financial firms in there. So my background, all I wanted to do was like investment banking. Then I moved to Dubai. And then in Dubai, I was working with an oil and gas firm, and they had a subsidiary in the firm, and one of the directors was very keen to move into renewable energy. As you know, then I'd say like 2015, 16, and even now, renewable energy is was a hot thing. And I was young, so I want to save the world and make money. How can I save the world and make money? Renewable energy, of course. So myself and Thomas, he's a co-founder, Thomas Reish, Gerard Reish, we had met during the uni days back in like 2013, and we always spoke about moving back to Africa, and we were part of a big diaspora network. So we had stayed in close contact, and it turns out that he was in Angola at the time. I was in Dubai, and I brought him. Made the introduction for the renewable energy team, the new team that was going to change the world. So we started a renewable energy company. I moved back to London. I got a part-time job in London. Actually, I got two part-time jobs. So I was working 8 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. in the morning, and then I'd have my little lunch break, and then from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. I was working another job, and then 10 p.m. to like 2 a.m. is when I had the most time to work on the renewable company, right? So, which wasn't that bad because the director was American. He was in Dubai with us. He moved to America, so the hours actually made sense for us. I was just working. I was in it for about 2 years. Um, this is when my hair went, but the beard came. So we give thanks always. So I'm not too mad, but that's how the cookie crumbled. So we started the renewable company. We got our first contract after about 2.5 years, I believe, in Angola. So I went to Angola during February and March of 2020. And then we were doing a feasibility study. We did a feasibility study for a university, an eco resort, and a college. It was going really well. COVID hits, and I have a decision to make. Am I going to stay here? There's a lot of uncertainty at the time, as you know. Am I going to stay in Angola? I didn't speak any Portuguese, by the way. My Portuguese has improved now, but I didn't know how long I was going to be there. So I went back to England. I went back to UK, and obviously all the projects that we had were put on pause. And it's like, look, I waited 2.5 years really for this point, and it was like I was really gutted at the time. But during the time in England, I started. Actually, I was managing artists in the UK during that time when I came back to the UK. Just something to like bring money in. He was already like an established artist, so it's not like I brought him up to that level. So he already was an established artist. I was just managing him. But whilst I was doing that, managing him again, I was still working on the renewable side. And then the demand had completely changed. So the companies or the provinces and municipalities that we're working with that wanted renewable services all of a sudden said to us, wait, okay, we need this, we need this, we need this. It was COVID era. There was a lot of supply chain issues and food scarcity and insecurity at the time. So I think we tapped into our old network because I told you whilst I was in Dubai, I was into the oil and gas sector. We tapped into a network of traders then and see what we can do if I can piece some people together. And yeah, this is how we started facilitating small transactions, like very small deals in like animal feeds, like maize bran, which is like the outer shell of the maize wheat bran, the same thing. These products are not as expensive, probably a fifth of the price or a fifth of the price of the main product. They just byproducts. A lot of people, because storage is limited, you don't want your warehouses or you don't want your facilities to be filled with bran when you can fill them with wheat. So people were throwing away their bran. And then we said to them, look, you can find ways to monetize this. You can sell this product for about $120 a ton. You can make money. I know it's not maize where you're selling for 500, but this is the way you can make money from what would otherwise be rubbish. So these are sorts of things that we started doing small, and then the company just started growing a bit more. And yeah, this is how where we are today now is a good place, but yeah, we have a lot of plans to expand and keep the intra-African trade going because we import, we export with other countries, other continents, but really our focus is to just do land transportation. So Grupo Reish, who is the Thomas's was an MD and is an MD of Grupo Reish. This is a 20+ year company in Angola. I started working with Grupo Reish. Sorry, I forgot to say that before we set up JegeReis. When I first got to Angola, I was working with Grupo Reish and I'm still close with them. They're the biggest land exporter in Angola. So we've got the expertise in land, not really shipping. It's more like land networks in Africa. So we know who wants what where. So why not create that? sort of self-serving ecosystem and benefits all of our countries.
Okay. So I looked at a post that you had on LinkedIn where you were explaining how you gave a speech rather at the UK Angola Chamber of Commerce, and how you explained your whys and hows and whats about your business. So my first question will be the why. Why Angola? You're Nigerian, but why did you think Angola was,
Are you jealous?
I'm
Are
biased,
you jealous?
but I'm Nigerian as well. So yes, I am jealous. I'm wondering in Nigeria, but but
I was in
but
Nigeria.
really, but really,
I was in Nigeria
you started in Nigeria. Do you have an
two
office in
years.
Nigeria?
No, no, I don't have. I'm looking into it though. We're looking into it definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, good question
Okay.
though. And some people ask me this. Some people ask the question, why Angola? Why not Nigeria? I think Angola is very similar to Nigeria in terms of the economic base. So these are mainly oil-based economies that are rich in almost every other mineral that there's demand for in commercial quantities, right? Mineral or produce, but they are over reliant on oil, and of course those countries I think are conscious of that transition. So the reason I chose Angola, firstly, Thomas is my partner. He's half British, half Angolan, and he was telling me for a long time, come to Angola, come to Angola. And at first I was like, oh, I'm in Dubai, I'm living my life, I'm doing this, I'm in London. But when I landed in Angola, I saw the opportunity. It's like, um, Angola is bigger than Nigeria for one, and it has a lot less people, and it's the sixth fastest growing population in the world. So I kind of felt like we got our first deal in Angola, so that's the number one reason. The first transaction, the first project that we were doing was in Angola. So it just so happened that we had more and more business in Angola, and it demanded my attention, demanded me to be there. If my first deal was in Niger, I'd have been in Niger. If it was in Kuwait, I'll be in Kuwait. So it's about what the business needed at the time. Now, obviously, we have a presence elsewhere, but that's the primary reason. But sorry, just to go back to the sort of the socio-political, eco-political similarities between Angola and Niger, I found it very interesting because Angola's only got 35 million people, but it's 30% bigger than Nigeria. And Nigeria has like 8 times more people. Angola obviously has um, the it's very like it has a number of ports, and we can service landlocked countries from here. And I said we, so you're getting jealous again. But Angola is able to service a lot of countries from its ports because they're reliant on either the west coast or the east coast of Africa, so that'll be Dar es Salaam or Mombasa or Mozambique. Um, or just the southern west coast. Angola has like a very long coastline, so there's a lot of opportunity to feed the 80 million people in Congo, to service the 40 million people in Zambia, and now they are just building this Lobito to Dar es Salaam east coast to west coast railway. So a lot of cargo is going to be passing through very seamlessly. The need for trucking, because there's so many hazards that come with trucking. And I mean, it's the primary mode of land transport, but this railway is going to make everything like 10 times easier. So I'm seeing the opportunity in Angola is there, similar to where Nigeria was, and a lot of Nigerians are coming to Angola now, um, because they're seeing the opportunity as well. Yeah, a lot of Nigerians, mainly Igbo people actually, but now more Yorubas are coming, but they come mostly because of the ONG sector. So a lot of companies are collaborating. But yeah, I'm just a farmer. I'm just a humble farmer. I'm not an oil boy.
Okay. But you said something interesting now that I wanted to ask you. So Angola has seaports, but it also
Yeah,
has land transport in terms of the rail that they're constructing now. So it makes the movement of goods and services a little bit better.
100%.
Wow. Okay. So from your website, I noticed that you said your specialty is in Southern Africa. That's not including South Africa, but Southern Africa, including places like Mozambique, Zambia, um, Malawi, etc.
Yeah, Mozambique, Zambia, Southern African Development Community (SADC). That includes it does include South Africa, but yeah, we work with a large South African trader, a large South African company. But most of the other companies, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, yeah, Angola, these are all anywhere below DRC, essentially. DRC and Ethiopia.
Okay, so I know you said you traded corn. Is there have you added other commodities to corn since you started?
That's questions. How long is a piece of string? We have added like wow, so many. People ask me like, oh, okay, what commodities do you trade in? This is this. And I'm like, what do you want? That's why I ask people first. I was like, what do you want? Because now we're trading a lot of commodities. So salt blocks. I'll start there. So this is what cattle lick. It's like salt feed. Sorry, animal feed, right? We trade in salt blocks. We trade in fish meal. We trade in poultry, meat. We trade in wheat bran. We trade in soybean meal. We trade in soya, crude oil. We trade in a lot of things. So yeah, coffee, bananas, pineapples.
Okay,
What do you
so
need?
all of these things are grown in Angola and then you export them, or what happens? Is it
So
is it an import or export business?
yes, the import export business. So actually, it's good you asked. So some of these products are grown in Angola. Some of these products, for example, you can say like wheat bran is Angolan, but wheat bran, after wheat is milled, wheat is probably imported from Ukraine and Russia, as you know, large importers of wheat, exporters, sorry, in the world, right? So a lot of the world is dependent on their wheat. So Angola is one such country that could import wheat. It's milled, the bran is then exported to another country, right? So is that Angolan wheat bran? It's for you to decide. It's like people saying to me, "Are you Nigerian? Are you British?" But I came here, I was re-exported. It's like, yeah, it is Angolan. It's an Angolan product, right? But obviously, the origin, if you want to talk about origins, is Eastern Europe. And other products that I mentioned, coffee. We trade in coffee from Angola. Angola used to be a very large producer of coffee, slowed down. Because of the war, it had some issues, but now they're producing a lot of coffee, or producing more coffee now. We trade in Ugandan coffee as well, most recently. Or we're procuring Ugandan coffee. I've never actually closed on that yet. Um, so pineapples, Angolan, banana, Angolan, yeah.
Let me take you back a bit. The process of moving from the UK to Angola, it must have been a bit, well, maybe scary, considering you are leaving the known to the unknown. And I think that the major language in Angola is Portuguese, and you speak English. So how did you adapt? What was the process like in moving from from Britain to Angola?
Do you know what? I can make it sound scarier than it was, but what made it easy was Angolans are very cool people. Very relaxed people. They're like Ghanaians. They're similar. Angolans are very like the language barrier is definitely an issue for me. Some people are laughing at me, yeah, but it's okay. I'm fine with that. I've come here on a mission, so that's less of a concern. But Angolans are generally quite relaxed, like friendly people. So I came, I didn't know a word of Portuguese. I was on in the airport doing Duolingo, the app, the language learning app. I was learning everything at the airport. Yeah, so I did some Spanish before in school and stuff, but it's not the same. Portuguese is technical. It's like math. It's like maths. It's very like real Portuguese. If you want to into it, it's like very close to like pure Latin, right? So yeah, it wasn't easy at first. Like I said, I didn't know the only person I knew in Angola was Thomas. Um, he's my partner. He's my very good friend. So yeah, he's like my best friend, and he took me through everything I needed to everything that I needed, literally everything. He was there, like babying me. So I can't complain. He did leave me at one point, actually, early on, for like 2 weeks, and I was alone for 2 weeks in Luanda. He went to the south of the country, but that was an important sort of time for me, I think, to sort of forge my own. identity, make my own friends, you know. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So back to the business. So how did you get your first deal? One. And then also how did you then learn to get subsequent customers? I'm talking about your connections with, say, the farmers, for instance, since you are an aggregator,
Yeah.
how was that process like?
So the first transaction that how did we get the first deal? That was, so I think I remember I told you that we were working with some municipalities before, and we were working with some people who just needed supplies. So we actually started with supplying them with, I think it was like thermometers or something like this, literally like just thermometers. So it was like, it wasn't even agriculture. So it was like we did that, we built their trust, and then one like local council did a website for them. You know, they paid everything in advance. Because one thing that really actually surprised me is everybody pays for things
Where did you where did you
more.
get the thermometers from?
Where did I get it from? I got it from the UK. Literally, I got it from the UK.
Okay.
I was in the UK at
Okay,
the time,
because
so
I'm trying to
yeah,
I'm trying to establish something that your trading partners were initially from the UK. So it was you were importing from the UK into Angola. Were you
yeah.
also
No,
exporting to the UK from Angola?
no, so I was just giving you a overview of how I got in on in terms of relationships. So the reason why I mentioned that, even though that's not, I don't do anything with Fermented now. I'm just into agriculture, agro produce. But I mentioned that because it's all relationship based. So this is something I knew nothing about. I didn't know anything about thermometers, but there was a need, and I knew if I did this and if we got the website done for them, that we're going to get that will build a lot of trust, right? Because when you're working in certain climates, you know, it's trust is the big factor in a lot of places in emerging economies, right? So I just said, okay, if I can show them that I can deliver on something, because we're trying to sell them products, and we're trying to sell. Everybody talks. We're trying to sell different people different products, but reputation comes first. Sometimes, again, like I said, this doesn't work in certain economies. In certain economies, you have to be known to do one thing, and that's it. You know, anything that deviates from that, people will get turned off. But I feel like, in my experience, in emerging economies, it's the opposite because there can be so much instability, people are naturally doing multiple things anyway, so they don't rely on one source of income anyway. So if you can prove yourself to be someone that can deliver, it's not really about what you can deliver. It's about being able to deliver. They'll ask you for something they probably know you don't know anything about, but they'd rather ask you than somebody that might know something about it, but they don't really trust the person. They heard the story or something. So we started with that, and then that went well, and we moved on to, so it was May's brand, and I helped to finance it from the UK. So I started with finance because I had connections in finance, right? Because that was my background. So my um, into the territory really was just okay, bring in financial solutions. At the time when I started, it was a bit difficult to get like FX transactions, just settlement of FX transactions in the country was hard. So I was providing liquidity for people to still transact, right? So that was really how we made our edge in the early days.
Okay. So how do you fund the business? Because that would have been my next question.
Yeah, so that was through literally we took like private loans and things like that. I All the money that I made whilst I was working part time, I was investing into Angola early. So those 2 years that I was talking about, and then even when I got into the music industry, whilst I did that during the COVID era, all of the money that I was making, I was sending it to Angola, and I was raising capital locally as well. So and we were just financing transactions, and it was very liquid. So I started with like high interest. I was telling people, look, you can make 10% in a quarter, right? And then because these were the early days, I was just wanted to get everything going. And suddenly, a lot of people were coming, oh, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to finance this transaction. So yeah, I set up different structures for different, because all these transactions have different deal structures. They've got different payment terms. They've got different maturity dates. So I just started lining things up. Okay, I know that we're gonna import this much, 9 trucks of maize bran, I'm going to need this much, and the payback is going to be in 60 days. I was raising capital on that basis. So, I don't want to get into the raising a fund, starting a fund. In the UK, there's a lot of regulation around that. FCA regulation. So I don't, it would have even been illegal if I was to start a fund. That would have been the ideal way to start a business, right? Because it's like lower cost of capital, longer lock-in of the capital. But I was so bullish in the early days, and I just knew that look, if we can get a foothold here, we can prove ourselves to be repeatable people at not whatever cost, but at any reasonable cost, because the returns are high. It's when you get into high volumes, the margins tend to come down. But those early days, it was very run and gun. It was like it was high margin, low volume, but high frequency. So a lot of high margin, low volume transactions.
Okay, and that's the best way to be, because that's the best place to be, rather, because I was about to ask you that. So what kind of margins do you enjoy?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you a range, and it's up to you whether you believe this or not. So we've done a transaction with 110%, 105% margin, and there are a lot of those. Okay, no, there are a number of those, right? I won't say a lot. We've done transactions. Typically, it'll be like 20%, 25%. But as I was saying, when it comes to volume, more recently, we've even come down to 8 because the volume has increased. So I don't mind taking 8% of more product than 25% of less. So I think as the business grows, actually, we've been talking about this a lot recently, about a division. Like I just love to have I put like a high frequency department, 4 people locked in a room, 10 hours a day, salespeople, just focusing on that. Because as we grow, obviously we want to take on numbers that are going to, bulk up our revenue, right? We're looking at revenue. Now I'm looking less at margin, and I'm looking more at, okay, what's the scale of the opportunity, right? And I'm trying to look at the bigger picture. So I can't be, just the early trading days, like the wheeler dealer, get in, get out. But I think not only is that good to keep the company fresh, it's also profitable. So I definitely need to start a department just for that. That's something we've actually been talking about a lot. You're asking some good questions.
Okay, that's good. At least when people listen, they'll be very, very educated, and maybe we will get some people that will come over to Angola just because of what they've heard today. But so in terms of products, I hear what you're saying as part within Africa, as in intra Africa. So what do you export? So I know the products that are produced within Angola, but what do you export, and to which countries do you export?
So we're importing from South Africa. We're exporting to Dubai. We're exporting to Zambia. We're importing from Zambia. So SADC countries, well, to be honest, Congo as well. We're trading with Congo. Yeah, most countries we're trading with in the SADC region. Niger now, with soybean meal, and yeah, this is most of the people, western coast of Africa, SADC Africa, will do a lot of trade between these countries, and yeah,
And what products are you trading with them precisely? And which ones are your, should I say, best sellers? Which
bestsellers.
one gives you the highest? Which one? What do you gone for? Highest margin or
Right.
highest volume?
Well, I'm currently within highest margin, but the goal is to be doing highest volume. So, wheat brand and maize brand, they're the number one because they're the byproducts I was talking about, the model we were talking about earlier. So these are commodities that they're not sexy, it's not oil, it's not, derivatives and futures, or and I'm not working with the interbank market, but it's an honest living, right? So I think the best sellers would be the brand. So these are byproducts, wheat brand, maize brand, the best products.
Are these brands, are they traded within Africa, or they're the ones that you export out?
Yeah, within Africa, but there's a lot of demand for them outside Africa. UK has a lot of demand because this is used well, it has several uses. Animal feed, it is actually used human consumption. Some wheat bran, so it's used for human consumption, but mainly for animal feed. This is a scarce market. Soybean meal is another product that we're trading. That's doing well, and that is right now in the market a scarce product. So fish feed, we're trading in fish feed now, and yeah, so feed. Like I said, anything that's not sexy, that's what I'm selling.
No, but that's a good strategy because if it's not common, it means that, or if it's scarce, it means that you can probably charge higher margins. Am I right?
Yeah, 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 exactly. There's more demand, so there'll be billable for product like these.
And these are what you export outside of Africa.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Okay. So do you do commodity trading on an exchange, or it's door to door or over the counter?
No, so this is just physical commodity trading, spot orders. So spot orders, you have term contracts as well. But the exchange, this is actually a good question. So I know Nigeria has a commodity exchange. South Africa has
It's not
SAPEX.
very active.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not very
So
active.
Africa has SAPEX, but I think there's huge opportunity. When you look at the prices, people say, "Oh, commodity prices go on Bloomberg, Yahoo Finance, or Business Insider." The prices that you'll see there are not the prices that are being traded here. They're not. It's completely different indexes entirely that we're working with. The variance sometimes can be like 30%, even higher, 30% difference to the world market price that you see versus what's being traded in Africa. So we definitely need, I think, our own exchange houses. Like, there's definitely scope for a derivative market. But you know better than me, you're a banker, what kind of challenges. I've been meaning to speak to someone about this, actually, somebody from a bank that we work with, right? And I'm trying to speak to them about it. But bankers, we have to really show you guys money. What do you need to see before we set up our futures, a derivative exchange, CMCs? The Chicago Mercantile Exchange. That is massive. Why don't we have something?
I think in Africa the greatest challenge to um, trading on an exchange is conserving the produce. The developed markets, they have a better way of conserving their grains so they can actually hold it for longer and actually trade it on an exchange. But in Africa, we don't invest in storage, in the kind of storage that can allow you to hold grains for years, you know. So until we get the storage right, we won't be able to do much on an
You
exchange.
say that on investing. I mean, you have a point, but I'm sure you saw what happened with J.P. Morgan and the nickel recently. Did you come across
Yeah.
the story? Yeah.
Tell me about it.
So they found in Netherlands, the LME, London Metals Exchange, have found that $1.3 million worth of nickel that futures were being traded off of the derivatives, right? You're trading off the strength of this nickel was just a bag of stones, and it belonged to JP Morgan. So I'm not naming a chain, a very obviously reputable bank, prestigious bank, but this is an example of we're talking about. I'm sure we can do the same thing. We can do the same thing here. I mean, it's a small amount, right? 1.2 million US. It's not even a dot on the balance sheet, but it's just a funny story and anecdote. We'll talk about what Africa doesn't have, but I think we can start with the little that we have.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And we shouldn't encourage bad practice. So you are right. We can't start from where we are. And it's just who will start. It's just the starting
Yeah.
that's the problem, the getting it going. But we have people
I
like
think
you that.
the infrastructure that's required to pull something like this off is, completely. We're talking about it's a different ball game, right? The infrastructure, the sort of organization that you have to syndicate is the level that you need to pull to be able to run a liquid commodities futures exchange. It's a dream, right? But it's realizable. But like you said, there's a lot of things, infrastructure gaps we have to kind of fill in. Firstly,
Yeah, you're right.
security.
You're right.
They're having that problem in the Netherlands. JP Morgan having a problem like that in the Netherlands with security. How much more in some of them, the markets that we
Okay.
targeted? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I get you. Okay. But tell me, explain to me what's the process like of finding buyers and sellers. I say that as in, so in the local market where you are, you're an aggregator. So how do you get the people that you buy from? And then how do you get the people that you sell to? It's like a chicken and egg situation. Which one do you do first? Get a seller or get a buyer?
Do you know what? It's funny because I still haven't nailed this down perfectly. So most of the transactions that we're doing now would be with existing buyers. Actually, we're actually not doing a lot of outbound sales into new buyers. So what happens is someone gets referred to you. So a lot of what we do is inbound. So it's referrals. It's referrals. Oh, we worked with these people before. They refer them to us. This is what they want. Okay, let's procure it. So usually it will come from the buyer side, right? And then we will go into the market and we're going to work with other traders. Traders are like friends and competitors, right? We'll go to other traders or we'll go to co-ops that we already work with, have relationships with. A trader is like a last resort. I'm a trader, so it's not downplaying it, but it's, to work with another trader just means my margin is higher. So I'd rather go straight to like a co-op, because a farmer, I mean, an individual farmer wouldn't be producing the sort of commercial quantities I need to export, right? So I'd be going to co-ops and um, I'll be working with factories as well, depending on the product. So yeah, so most of the people that are buying, we already know, or they've been referred to us through people we already know. But selling is where I think is more okay. Let's look for a new source, a supplier that is reliable. That's harder than finding a buyer. Yeah, when I got into the game, I was finding the buyer. They're the one that's paying you. So that should be everything we're focusing on. No, 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 no. You learn the hard way. You should be focused on finding a supplier that can consistently supply you the same quality of the product that you've agreed on. I'm not even saying every product is the highest quality. I'm just saying the agreed upon quality. You find that finding the consistency in supply is much harder than finding a reliable buyer or legitimate buyer.
That would have been my next question, as in, how do you get the farmers to produce a standard that's acceptable internationally if you are exporting outside of Africa, for instance, or
Yeah,
even
sure.
within Africa? Because I mean, because even within Africa, you should have a good standard.
Yeah, no, of course. We have a good standard, and actually, any transaction that you're doing, most buyers are going to ask for a sample first. Sample is not a perfect representation, so they'll ask for a lab test, they'll ask for a sample of the product, and it's not a perfect representation because you can still receive a product, right? You can say, okay, this um, wheat bran, or sorry, this soybean meal has 48% protein. We're looking for 48%, which is a high protein level. It gets to your doorstep as 44%. It's not what we agreed upon. Okay, I'll keep it. I bought it, but I'm not going to buy from you guys again. If I, so I can sell somebody something, the quality's not good, but they're not going to come back to me, right? Even if I've, transacted with them. So I'd rather say, okay, send me a sample. Let's analyze the sample. Let's make sure that you guys actually have the facilities to keep producing, at this level, the quality at this level. And a lot of it is relationship based, like I said. So the relationship that, as a trader, you're managing expectations for all parties. So the same pressure that's coming from the buyer to say, okay, I've delivered them something, unless they're very pedantic with the clauses and say, oh, unless it's 48, we'll reject it. Sometimes it's like, okay, it's 46, it's 44. I'm going to take this. I need this product. The protein isn't great. It's not the best for my animals for the optimal amount that they need. But I, as a trader, I know that, I can't just sell this to him and say, okay, let me go for my money. The guy's never going to talk to me again. And worse still, he's going to tell other people in the market. So I'm passing the same pressure onto the seller to say, look, okay, the samples come back good, great. We need to just make sure that the consistency is there because I'm not going to come back to you. The same way the trader's not going to come back to me, I'm not going to come back to you if we're not able to produce this level of consistency. So I'm not a producer personally. We have a small operation, but as I was saying, nothing close to like export quantities really. So I'm not a producer. All I can do is manage expectations. I'm communicating the requirements for both parties. And there's only so much I can manage. Samples come back good. If the final product isn't as good, then it's on me. But for you, the seller, it's going to be also on you.
Right. Okay, so how do you manage payments? There's the issue of who pays first. Do you open letters of credit, or you have another way of paying? In Nigeria, it's the sophisticated that open letters of credit. The Igbo guys in Nigeria, when they are importing from China, for instance, because China is one of our major traders in
Yeah,
Nigeria, it's about trust. When they've built a relationship with the Chinese counterparty, sometimes they move money to them without even receiving the product because they've done it over time and they've built some kind of trust. So is it the same for you in Angola, or you're
it's,
purely
it's exactly the same.
using payment?
I'm glad you said.
Okay.
I'm glad you said that because, as I was saying before, this is all based on trust. There's no economy in the world that doesn't run on trust. So trust is the basis of any transaction. And if you don't trust somebody, even if they say, "Oh, pay up," it's not going to work with you anyway. So high trust societies tend to do better than low trust societies because in a high trust society, you can have something like Amazon on eBay. In the low trust society, you're not going to get Amazon and eBay. People buying and selling things online. Imagine in certain societies, it's not gonna that won't it's not gonna work. I need to see the product physically. I need to touch it. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I said to say the payment terms vary, and as you said, it varies on the relationship you already have with the person. Sometimes it will vary on the counterparty. So I don't have to have a good relationship with someone, but if I know this is a large firm, right, or that has like pedigree, and they have certain payment terms that they never budge on, I'm going to comply with them. But if I don't have a relationship with them, they're not really a credible firm. I'm going to make the payment terms as favorable to myself as possible. I have the leverage. And as a trader, it's difficult sometimes. You have a payment terms like, let's say, my end buyer, right? Oh, sorry, my end supplier wants 30% advance. That happens. 50% advance. If I'm working in West Africa, they'll say some people say to me, "Oh, we want 50% advance." Hedge their risk and the exposure. But then I'm trading with somebody, and they're not going to give me they're not going to give me an advance. So how much of that am I going to take on my balance sheet? Is a question. So every deal, it makes it interesting for me, finding solutions. And we work with like banks, but sometimes I'm not, no shade to you, your banker, but sometimes banks can be slow. So we work with banks and different financial institutions. Something really good. So we work with them to find solutions and find creative solutions to our financing problem. Sometimes we do, we take it on our own books, but cash flow is king here. So I try as best as possible to avoid that. But some suppliers will just say, look, 30% advance, 50% advance. Some letter of credit, some 100% advance. Somebody that really wants a product, some of the products we discussed today, they'll send before I've sent them a truck, they've sent me the money, right? For 9 trucks before I sent one. That's like 300 tons or something. So that's also, and that's a company that it's not like you have to do crazy business with them before, but you kind of got a decent name, one, and it's an urgent requirement. Bring it to me now because they don't want you to sell to somebody else. They're not going to play any games with that. You lock in a price, and those are the best deals because with that one, have a large dinner. I order a starter for dinner when those ones come. I ordered some starter.
Okay. And so in Angola, I know you alluded to this fact earlier on, but I wanted to ask you a little bit more in terms of the foreign exchange. Do you have issues with foreign exchange like it is in Nigeria? And if yes, because you import and you export, are your revenues in dollars or in foreign currency enough to be able to not require you to have to source FX elsewhere? And if you do need to source FX, is it from an official market or they have a parallel market like there is in Nigeria?
Yeah. So all good questions. They do have a parallel market, but the parallel market in Niger is like 100% variance, right? With the parallel market would be 900 when the primary market 500, 400. That is not it's nothing like that. It's not that bad. So they do have a parallel market. We have FX issues. There was actually a lot of FX issues when I first started transacting with Angola. The country is going through a lot of issues getting USD and things like that. And I had USD and I had access, sorry, to USD. So that was, just another way that we found our entry point into the market. So for me, when these issues come about, I just like to look at the opportunity because it means somebody is winning somewhere. If I can find the right solution, which is why I try to stay close to financiers as much as possible, can I find the right solution for this problem? Because not only if I'm having this problem, that means other traders are having this problem. That means I can assume transactions. I can take title of their product if I can find a solution to this issue, right? Because I know somebody else is having that issue. So first, let me find the solution to this one, and even better, I can solve five other people's problems, and then we increase shareholder value. So yeah, you have problems. We have a private market. Sometimes you do have problems um, with like letters of credit and USD Kwanzaa, that's the Angolan currency. But yeah, I always try to find my way around it. I've been revealing too many secrets, so this is one that I'll keep to myself.
Okay, but let me ask you: are you able to go to the official market and buy,
Yes,
or
you can.
you can? Okay, but do they ration it?
Yes, it'll take a while. It's not as like I said, it's not as bad as Nige, but it's for what we're doing, what I'm doing, it's not really plausible. So we this is why we've set up our presence in the UAE and UK as well because we want to make sure that we're not FX is because for me, how I've always seen this business or business in general is the payment term should be the last problem, right? And I think for a number of people, the payment terms is everything is like, oh, how are we getting paid? How are we getting paid? Me, it's can I move this transaction through my books? Can we deliver? If we can deliver, as we've been emphasizing, that's all that matters. So, which is why now I'm less concerned about the margin. I'm more concerned about volume and being a company known to be able to deliver in a timely manner what was agreed upon. So for me, the payment terms are it's the last thing on my mind, really. Have we got a deal? We do. We'll find a way. So yeah, but in order to behave like this, you have to be close to the financier. So I'm always in the loop, and I'm always finding solutions.
Okay, let me go a little further away from the business and refer to your post where you gave a speech at the UK Angola Chamber of Commerce. So,
Yeah.
is that a new establishment, or the UK Angolan Chamber of Commerce was something that existed before and you just happened to give a speech there? I realized that your company sponsors or just became a sponsor for
Yeah.
that chamber of commerce. So is this a new initiative to foster relationship between Angola and UK, or it's something that already exists?
Yeah, it already existed, and Angola and the UK, I think the relationship in terms of trade is minimal. So, for me, again, I look at these things and I'm like, this is perfect for something for me, especially for Thomas to associate himself with his my partner. He is 50% half Nigerian, half Angolan, half British. So he's the most qualified person to be part of the chamber. I'm obviously a British citizen, and now an Angolan by adopted Angolan. So again, something that makes sense for our company to be involved in. So we became corporate sponsors last year, and yeah, it's all about facilitating trade and market entry between the two countries. Because one thing I didn't mention, a slight tangent, is aside from importing and exporting, we actually are we've got a number of joint ventures and partnerships with other foreign entrants or potential entrants that want to come into and have already a number of them already come into the Angolan market and the SADC region, the Southern African Development Community. So we've got all these partnerships. We advise them on how to, on commercial strategy, operations, help them with their administrative setup. Usually they'll bring their technical expertise and or finance, but some like more recently we've been supplying the finance as well or raising facilities, helping them raise facilities. So because of the market knowledge that we have, we're able to expand and provide other services. And yeah, for us it's all about like industry. Because we're importing, we're exporting is good, but ultimately industry is what's going to make Africa self-sustainable, right? So, setting up factories, manufacturing things, having the right storage facilities we spoke about earlier, and the infrastructure, the digital or the intangible infrastructure you can build on top of that, like the derivatives exchange, for example, something that we were just talking about, that is what is important to us. So market entry to us is these foreign companies want to come in. Okay, you can come in through us. This is that's why we joined the UK Chamber and Angola Chamber of Commerce and become sponsors because we want to facilitate this because the UK and Angola didn't have that relationship for a long time. Brexit has happened. So many other things have happened that caused sort of insecurity in the West. And now they're all looking to Africa, investing heavily. Germany is here. The French obviously have always been here. The EU is just trying to catch up with China. The US are now coming in again, re-entering. So everybody is now, trying to re-enter Africa. We can help people make a transition into the territories we're familiar with. Some countries I'm like, speak to this person. I don't know anything about, let's say Gabon or something. I don't operate there. But for what I know, this is another way to create those trade relationships as well.
Right. That's really interesting stuff. Really interesting stuff. So can you give me an example of where you've got your fingers burnt, where you run into problems, and how you were able to out of it?
So there's one example. I don't know if I can mention
You
it.
make it, because you make it sound so easy, but I know that this
No,
just
no. When you met me, I had hair. Look at this. When you met me, no, 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 no. None of this is easy. I was, actually, some of my hair is growing back. I know you don't believe me, but I've been checking recently. Um, No, it's definitely not easy. Like as I was saying, you're in between. You're trying to. If something goes wrong, it's all your fault. From both the buyer and the seller perspective, and buyer and seller. If it goes right, it was meant to go right. You don't get a pat on the back as a trader. That's the truth. Obviously, you get your profit, which is always good, but the downside is there. There's a lot of downside risk. Bear in mind, so advance payments. I'll give you. This is the easiest thing to tell you. There's some other things to do with letters of credit. Actually, where a bank has done something, or they haven't done something in the correct time. The exchange rate has moved against us. Quarter of a million USD. I'm not going to go into that in detail because there's people we work with. It happened, and we've resolved that. We've resolved the that issue before. But that's an example of the sort of things that have happened, right? And when I say resolved, I don't mean the money came back. By the way, I'm saying the relationship is there and it's all great. But that's an example. But I'll give you a basic example: advance payments. That is number one. Like, man, I'll tell you. That one is, oh, you think this person, these guys, they have the pedigree, you have to issue an advance payment where the trader, the example that I gave earlier is like that risk. If you're not working with the right financing partner that's flexible enough to back you, sometimes you need to back yourself on it. You back yourself on it, okay, how can I, numbers, happen like three different times, two different times, sorry. 15K, 42K, I'm just giving you like numbers, gone, just like this. You've issued. Sometimes it's happened. You issue even more advance, and the deal has gone smoothly. And everything's great. But it's just so funny. It's the guy. It's the guy. Sometimes it's the companies that you think are illegitimate. They're the realest ones because they just want to close the transaction quickly, and then it's the ones that pretend and have the great cosmetic cover and they're false and they're swindlers. So yeah, advance payments is the number one way to get yourself burnt as a trader. Um, you have truck drivers. We're dealing with a lot of truck drivers. They have a lot of funny stories of the average truck is going to take like 34 tons of most products, right? Maize bran or maize bran, wheat bran, whatever. Truck driver. This was actually one of the first deals we've done. He's attempted to put 47 tons on the truck, right? Not 37. At 40, it would have it wouldn't even run. The guys tried to put 47 tons because the product was in smaller bags than usual. So he just thought, oh, I can just put all these more bags, as if the weight has changed. Just the number of bags has changed, but the weight is the seen. But because the guy's seen it in smaller bags, he's then put more products on. It's turned out to be 47 tons. That truck didn't make it. As you can imagine. So, so this happened, and it's all anew. Something goes wrong, of course, it's all anew. But I'm not complaining. It's the line of work that we're in, and we're in between the lines. We're connecting two dots, so we have to do our job from start to finish to make sure those jobs connect. But you have all sorts of stories. Yeah.
Okay. And during this process, the journey that you are still on anyway, at what point did you know that I'm onto something, that I didn't make a mistake in moving to Angola? And did you ever have to pivot or change direction?
At what point when I think it was actually when I first before I came back to UK, I mentioned that I went to Angola February and March of 2020, right? When I came back to UK because of COVID. I think it was then. I think when I was leaving Angola, I realized that this place is the future. One of such other countries, many other countries, but this is, this place can be the breadbasket of Africa, along with Congo, Niger, and some other countries. Zambia is another country to look out for, Ghana as well, where we have presence. Somalia, Somaliland. These are some countries that I think have enormous, enormous potential. I think when I was first in Angola, I went to the south. We were traveling by road, and I've traveled. When I came back to Angola, I traveled by road about 2,000 kilometers, 3,000 all in, there and back, just around the country, towards the east, I've gone south. Different trips, 3,000 each, I'd say. And I was just looking at just the land. I feel like in Africa, what you don't get in emerging markets, what you don't get in developed economies, I can step outside tomorrow and I'll get a business idea from something I can see happening. Just this is organized properly. If I just put something there to organize this, it's gonna make this. This can turn over this amount. Okay, let me hire somebody that can look after this. You can just leave your house tomorrow and just you can look around you. So when I looked at the country as a whole, I drove around the country and I saw the land, the arable land. I only looked at the statistics after, and even the statistics I don't think are a fair reflection from the trading that we do and the things that I've seen on my journeys here. I'm like, this place is so much more than these reports are telling me. This is 80% of this land is arable and they can grow anything in Angola. It's like Nigeria has very diverse topology also, right? So I think I knew I didn't make a mistake the first time because I went down the coastline, I went down South Country, I came back up by car. Then when I came back to Angola, I went towards the east of Angola. And that's where most of the minerals, the metals are. So the um, copper, gold, ore is towards the east of Angola, but still very like agro-friendly area. So yeah, I think when I was in just driving through the land, that's when I realized, yeah, this place is, and there's quite few people for the land. It's not a very dense place, but the population is so fast growing. And this is the corridor into Congo as well, and then the railway that we were talking about towards the east coast, connecting the east and the west for the first time in Africa. It's like no brainer to be here. So all of these things sort of culminated. I don't think it was one time, but I think it was just more affirmations each time and reinforcing. It reinforces itself when you're here.
So, so my last question to you is, where do you see yourself in the future? What do you want to achieve? Do you see yourself going into other markets outside of Angola and the southern part of Africa? Are you going to raise funding? What's your exit strategy? Do you eventually want to sell your company and do something else? What's your plan for the future?
So I think I try to stay away from super long term plans because things change so much in a year, 6 months. But for me, I don't have plans to sell the company. The company is a joint family company between, it's my surname, Jegede, and Thomas Reish. So I don't have plans to sell the company. Probably subsidiaries that the company owns or will own, I'd probably be open to selling. But as far as the company is concerned, this is something that I've always wanted to build for my family. I grew up watching a lot of documentaries, reading biographies, things like this. And now that I'm starting to live this, it's like it's addictive. This is everything that I always wanted. I'm able to incorporate my family in it, where and when they choose, of course. Um, so yeah, I don't have plans to sell. I think the aim for the company, as far as I see it, is just connecting Africa through industry, um, reducing reliabilities on imports from other continents, right? Reliability, so relying dependability, depending on. I don't think it's good for any country to wholly depend on another country or any continent to wholly depend on another continent for several reasons, right? That are above things are just outside of your control. I'm not talking about malice, just anything. It could be geological. So yeah, so I'm just all for promoting that inter-African trade, and well, I learn so much every day about so many different cultures within Africa. Sometimes it's easy to be like, oh, I want to go to this country, I want to go to this country, I want to go to this, even within different tribes, right? In or in villages, just how different villages operate. There's so much richness in our cultures that we can extrude, right? If we pay more attention um, to these things. So yeah, for me, it's like just setting up shop in Africa, giving ourselves back our own power and control when it comes to commerce. Um, and how does that happen? It happens through manufacturing. It happens through training and education, um, and becoming like net exporters of things that we're currently importing. Now Angola is self-sufficient in maize, corn. That's super important. It's a staple food, and just being self-sufficient is like it's a huge step. So now next step is to export something that used to be a net importer of. That's a massive win for a country. And every country should be able to achieve that feat, as it relates to their, the topology of their land, like their capabilities. I think it's all about maximizing the capabilities that we have. So how can JegeReis do that? We can do that by connecting, bringing more expertise into Africa. It can be from outside or within. That's fine, as long as it's coming here to train our people. I want to, of course, set up shop in Niger as well. Do more things in Western Africa, not just Southern, and then looking towards East Africa as well. Yeah, those are the places right now where I've been pulled. So I don't know where it's going to be next. Maybe north, I'm not too sure. More central, but there's just so much to do right now in Angola, in Southern Africa, and Western Africa that I want to just focus on that first and prove what we're trying to do can actually work, and then we'll expand.
It's been fantastic talking to you. And
It's
for
been great.
someone so young, you're doing something really laudable, and I wish you the very best, the very very best. And I hope that I will bring you back to my show again, and you'll be telling me you're in Nigeria now. You should set up shop in Nigeria,
Yeah,
hopefully.
I'm coming soon. Don't worry, don't worry. Let me chop. Then I'll have hair. Then my hair would have grown back, so you'll see me. You won't even recognize me.
Okay, we'll see you then.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.